You've probably heard that INFJs are rare. But what's even rarer? A highly intelligent INFJ. Not just emotionally attuned or introspective, but someone whose brain is wired like a quantum puzzle and whose soul refuses to be tamed by a world that misunderstands them. They're not just different, they're strangely brilliant. And with that brilliance comes a set of, let's say, unusual habits, misunderstood, misjudged, or misnamed. But to the INFJ who's been hiding their genius under layers of empathy, silence, and soul weariness, this video is for you. Let's dive into the 7 strange habits of highly intelligent INFJs. And if you find yourself nodding silently, that's because you were never alone. 1. They simulate conversations in their head, endlessly. Let's start with something that INFJs don't even realize is a habit, because for them, it feels as natural as breathing. Highly intelligent INFJs simulate conversations. Not just the next one they'll have, but the one from yesterday they wish had gone differently, the one they fear will happen tomorrow, and even ones with people who are no longer in their lives. They run full-length mental plays, multiple versions, multiple endings, rehearsing tone, silence, reactions, emotional impact. They are scripting the world not because they're controlling, but because their mind is always 10 steps ahead. And here's the thing. It's not just overthinking. It's emotional strategy. It's their way of protecting people from their intensity, their depth, and the truth bombs they're capable of dropping without warning. The strange part? They often feel closer to the imagined version of people than the real ones. And in their solitude, they become fluent in inner dialogue, because the outside world rarely speaks their language anyway. 2. They hoard information that seems useless to others. You'll find INFJs reading about 14th century mythology, the metaphysical symbolism of mirrors, or the migration patterns of monarch butterflies, with obsessive fascination. To others, it's random. But to the INFJ? It's pattern fuel. They're collecting puzzle pieces, bits of meaning that don't connect now, but will, eventually, in a dream, in a conversation, or in the middle of a breakdown that needs one tiny truth to make sense of it all. Highly intelligent INFJs are information hoarders. But not for trivia night. They absorb abstract, poetic, strange, or scientific facts because they instinctively know that truth is hidden in the margins. They want to know everything, not to impress, but to understand the threads that connect reality. And yes, they will get emotionally attached to a single quote, a word in a foreign language, or a historical event no one talks about. Because for the INFJ mind, meaning isn't found. It's woven. 3. They take social breaks without explaining why. Let's be honest. INFJs vanish. They'll respond less, withdraw more, cancel plans last minute with vague apologies, or simply go radio silent. To outsiders, this seems cold or inconsistent. But to the INFJ, it's sacred. Highly intelligent INFJs need to detox from the noise, the expectations, the small talk, the emotional debris they pick up like magnets. They retreat, not because they dislike others, but because they've run out of psychic oxygen. Here's what people don't realize. During these breaks, INFJs are still thinking about you. Still caring. Still holding your energy close. But they must return to their inner sanctuary or risk emotional collapse. They recharge through silence, deep thought, art, long walks alone, or writing journal entries that will never be read. And when they come back, they often bring with them a new perspective, a softened heart, and an evolved version of themselves. But the strange habit remains. They disappear when the world gets too loud. 4. They experience deep mourning for ideas that never lived. Most people grieve people. INFJs grieve possibilities. A conversation they never got to have. A version of themselves they couldn't become. A relationship that only lived in their imagination. Highly intelligent INFJs mourn the invisible. Not because they're delusional, but because they feel things before they're real, and when those things don't come to life, it feels like a stillbirth of the soul. They attach emotional weight to potential. They'll cry over a project they never finished, or feel haunted by a creative idea that passed through them like a ghost because they couldn't catch it in time. This strange habit is often internalized as guilt or shame. Why am I grieving something that never happened? But in truth, it's just part of the INFJ's visionary pain. They live in a space where futures are always being born and dying. It's not weakness. It's their creative wound. And it's also their superpower. 5. They speak in layers, not lines. When INFJs talk, it's rarely straightforward. Even when they sound calm, they're saying three things at once: what they feel, what you want to hear, and what's too dangerous to say outright. Highly intelligent INFJs communicate in layers. Symbol, metaphor, tone, silence, they use all of it. They can say, "I'm fine," and mean, "I'm breaking." They can smile and simultaneously mourn. And if they trust you deeply, they might drop a poetic phrase that sounds strange but holds a coded truth that's decades in the making. This strange habit of layered speech can frustrate others, but for INFJs, it's survival. Because their truth is too sharp, too prophetic, too raw to be handed over plainly. So they mask it with elegance, with softness, with riddles. But make no mistake, every word they say is a chess move. 6. They obsess over one subject for months, then drop it completely. INFJs go through intellectual love affairs. 1 month it's quantum physics. The next, Jungian psychology. Then suddenly, ancient Persian poetry. They become scholars, immersing themselves completely: books, podcasts, documentaries, maybe even starting a blog no one reads. They give their mind fully to the subject, not for status or approval, but because something about it calls their soul. But then, it stops. Almost without warning. They drop it. Move on. Detach emotionally from the topic like a relationship that no longer resonates. To outsiders, this is strange. But to INFJs? It's spiritual evolution. They consume knowledge until their soul says, "enough," and then they pivot. Not because they're fickle, but because they've extracted what they needed: the symbolic, the metaphorical, the internal transformation. Highly intelligent INFJs don't learn for logic. They learn for alchemy. 7. They anticipate people's emotional reactions before they happen. This habit is the strangest, and possibly the most misunderstood. INFJs seem to know what someone is going to feel before that person even realizes it themselves. And it's not always pleasant. They'll soften a comment before speaking because they know it might trigger a memory you've buried. They'll back off emotionally because they sense your walls rising before even you do. They'll see your loneliness beneath your laughter, your bitterness inside your sarcasm, your apology that you never said but feel deeply. To some, this makes INFJs feel uncanny. Too perceptive. Too precise. Too unsettling. But this strange habit is not manipulation. It's a form of emotional precognition. And it comes at a cost. Because INFJs not only carry their own emotional weight, they often carry everyone else's too. Highly intelligent INFJs don't just read the room. They absorb it, filter it, translate it into meaning. And when they're exhausted by it all, they wonder if maybe life would be easier if they just didn't feel so much. But deep down, they know, their feeling is their power. Maybe you've spent your whole life wondering why you feel things so deeply, why your silence carries volumes, why you're tired in rooms full of noise, and why your joy always seems to come with an undercurrent of grief. But here's the truth. You're not broken. You're just wired for a different frequency. A higher one. A deeper one. One that requires solitude, self-awareness, and the courage to embrace your strangeness as sacred. These 7 habits might confuse the world. But they are your signal, not your shame. They are the markings of someone who sees through illusions, lives beneath the surface, and walks with wisdom that can't be taught, only remembered. So here's your permission slip, dear INFJ. Be as strange as you need to be. Because in your strangeness lives your genius. If this resonated with your INFJ soul, hit that like button to let the world know that we INFJs are out here, thriving in our complexity. Drop a comment sharing which habit hit home for you, and what your own, strange, INFJ gift is. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives, because in this space, your depth, your silence, your intelligence, is not only welcomed, it's celebrated. Until next time, protect your energy, trust your insight, and remember, you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to transform.